Hey, what's up everyone? Danny and Alex. In this video, we're going to talk about Muay Thai footwork, and the two first punches you have to perfect in order to be proficient in the art of Thai boxing. Okay, so when you start in Muay Thai as a beginner, I've talked about this in previous videos, but I want to talk about it again. It's the footwork or your stance, and you also have to make sure that you warm up correctly. For a great Muay Thai warm-up, make sure to check out my channel. I'll leave a link in the description below for a great Muay Thai warm-up routine for you guys to try at home. But I also want to discuss how you should move using your Muay Thai footwork, and we're going to talk about the two first punches, which in my opinion are the two most important punches in the art of Muay Thai. All right, so first, we want you guys placing your feet on a 45. So Alex is going to do it beside me, but Alex is going to do it as a right-handed fighter. That means his right side, right leg is going to be behind. I'm going to do it facing you guys as if I were a southpaw fighter or a lefty, okay? Now, it's almost like he's going to point towards that side, I'm going to point towards this side a little bit. That's how I want my shoulders, and then I start to face you guys towards the camera. That means the pivot is going to be on the lead foot facing the opponent or facing the target. It could be the pad holder, someone you're fighting, self-defense, or the heavy bag. Even if you're just shadow boxing, you always want to teach yourself to always have that lead foot pointing forward. Okay, now the back leg is always at a comfortable distance. You don't want it too wide like this, almost like you're doing a splits, because this will have no mobility and it'll leave you really susceptible to inside and outside low kicks. Muay Thai is way different than boxing. So we have to have the correct stance for our sport, okay, because of low kicks, and we have knees, and we also have clinching techniques, okay? So now, back to the stance. We're going to have our feet pointed here. Now our hands are going to be up, and what's important is the back hand, his right hand and my left hand now, is going to be always protecting my chin. That's very important. I don't want to have my hands too far out like this or too wide, because that leaves me wide open. Of course, once you start to freestyle and you get more comfortable, more seasoned as a practitioner, you're going to be a little bit more loose and moving around like this. But at first, it's a good habit to always just have the correct position right at first. It'd be like if I taught you guys how to drive a car, and as your driving coach, I would tell you to just drive the steering wheel like this and have your hand like this and maybe just kind of like be relaxed. Of course, you'll be able to drive like this eventually, but at first, it's always one hand at 10 o'clock and the other one at 2 o'clock, and you're going to be holding your steering wheel like this. That would be correct coaching. The same thing for the art of Thai boxing. I want to properly coach you guys to have a correct stance, and from there, once you have a good structure, a good base, then you start to add your own flair to it. Okay, so now, once we have this position here, the lead hand is going to be up, always equal to my nose or even sometimes to my eyebrow. Sometimes it's going to get a little bit lower, but this one is going to be a little bit more dynamic than my backhand. What's very important now is to understand the Muay Thai march. The Muay Thai march is basically just leaving your feet and your legs very loose. So this is going to be the Muay Thai march, just like this. Right? So once again, Alex has his left foot forward. I'll have my right foot forward, just to show you guys if you are left-handed or right-handed. And all I'm doing is just kind of like putting weight from the right to the back foot, front foot, back foot, and balancing like this. That way I start to teach my hips, my shoulders to relax, and I'm always on the balls of my feet, okay? I don't want my heels pointing solid to the ground like this. Always almost on the toes, okay? Very light. Now, once I know how to march like this, of course, I'm not going to do robotic like this. It's going to be very loose. It's just an exercise to teach your body and your legs to move freely and smoothly. Now we need to learn how to move forward, backward, left, and right. Okay, so now we're going to go a few steps towards the camera. Let's do 3 steps. We're going to go stepping, stepping, stepping. And now when we want to retreat, we're going to go back. That means the back leg is going to move first, and we're going to go stepping, stepping, and stepping. Once again, forward, 1, 2, 3, and once again back, 1, 2, 3, okay? And we're always moving and keeping our shoulders and our elbows very loose like this, almost like they're just floating, all right? What's very important is to never be stiff we talk about this a lot, is never be stiff like this. You're expending a lot of energy and you should be relaxing, okay? Now, if I want to be moving towards my right side, in my case, as a lefty, my right foot is going to move forward. And the same thing goes for Alex. But the only difference now is his back leg is there, and it's my front leg that's there, okay? But it's going to be the same mechanics. So now I want to move this way. We're going to go 3 steps. We're going to go 1, 2, 3. And if I want to go towards my left side, left foot, left foot, left foot before I reset my right foot. Okay, so these are basics. Everyone should know this. But a lot of times when we're beginners in the art of Muay Thai, we're not being taught this kind of stuff. People start to teach the bouncing right away. And this is called marching. So we need to learn how to walk before we can run. And in Muay Thai, I always like to say we need to learn how to march before we can bounce. Okay? So let's go back to the exercise once again. But now, as I explained, I'll have Alex move 3, 3, 3, and 3. Okay? Let's go. So we're going 1, 2, and 3. Beautiful. 1, 2, and 3. And now to one side. 1, 2, and 3. And towards me. 1, 2, and 3. Very loose. It's a very simple exercise, but this needs to be recorded, needs to be practiced daily. In Muay Thai, a lot of times, some of the practitioners down in Thailand, the crews or the ajans, will have newcomers or the Farangs or foreigners practice this exercise for hours on end. And this is also good because, as my master told me, is it also tests the students' patience. So if you think that, oh, I'm going to be practicing only this, I came here to learn all the fancy kicks, well then you shouldn't be taught the right way of doing Muay Thai. So number one, I find that if you're patient enough to learn this skill, it'll always stick with you. When I see my master, he still has us practice this stuff all the time as a warm-up. It's very crucial and it's an important aspect of your Muay Thai. Okay, now, we don't want to be so robotic where all we do is march all the time. Sometimes we want to have a little bit of a freestyle motion with our legs and our footwork. So this next one is going to be the bounce. So basically, it's just being a little bit lighter and quicker on our feet. So what we're going to do from our stance is just start to bounce like this up and down. And this is easy, right? But now we're going to start to bounce from the left to the right foot. Once you learn how to do this now, we're going to start to bounce or shuffling towards the front and towards the back. Okay, so let's do 3 towards the front. So now if I start to bounce, I'm going to start to march in place. This is our march. And now when I shuffle, it's going to look like this. 1, 2, 3. And now I start to march. And now I shuffle back. 1, 2, 3. Okay, again, marching. 1, 2, 3. And shuffling. 1, 2, 3. Marching. 1, 2, 3. And shuffling. That's it. It's just to be a little bit quicker and loose, but the important detail to remember, whether you're marching slowly or shuffling quicker, is to never cross your feet. Okay? So I still see people doing this as they want to shuffle in. So sideways, it's going to look like this. This is the worst case scenario, right? People do this to shuffle in. And this is very wrong because it takes 1 second for someone to intercept as you enter to attack or close the distance. And then if you get caught with your feet crossed together or crossing over, that's going to have you in deep trouble. Okay, so now, if we want to go towards our right side, it's going to be the same thing, right? So if I start shuffling this way, let's go, Alex. We're going to go 1, 2, 3. And then this way, we're going to go 1, 2, 3. See, it's just a little bit quicker. So when you shadow box, when you practice, you should be combining both methods. We want to march, which is the majority of the time, so we're in great base, but we want to also add a little bit of shuffling or bouncing. Why is that? Simply because you're breaking the opponent's timing. You're also breaking your, we call this broken rhythm, so your rhythm. And it keeps you loose and quick on your feet, and that way there, if you're practicing how you can shuffle in and out, you can also explosively attack, move out, and counterattack very quickly, okay? So now, these footwork tips are super important to practice at all times. This is great stuff for solo training. So if you're at home or your gym is closed or even before your workouts when you arrive to the school, your Muay Thai school, You can spend 5 to 10 minutes with this. I had students where I've taught them this stuff, and I would see them arrive 30 to 45 minutes before the class started and practice this non-stop. The length of the mat, okay? Some of my most dedicated students have done this. And that's really the stuff that impresses me, is these students understand that they're here for the long run. They really want to learn the true art of Muay Thai, and they're going to refine their basics non-stop. And when I practice the basics, I'm also setting up my brain, always warming up my head, psychologically getting myself ready. So when we say warm up, it's not just physically warm up by doing rope skipping, shadow boxing, jumping jacks, and whatnot. It's also warming ourselves up mentally to get prepared for the training that's to come. Okay, now let's talk about the two first punches, or only for this video, the only two punches I'm going to talk about is the jab, or the straight left, and the cross, right straight. Okay, let's talk about that jab first. I recently made a video with Alex showing you guys 3 different methods of throwing a jab. We had the up jab, the spare jab, and the regular jab, double up and tripling up that jab. Today I also want to talk about the regular jab once again, for the people who are just new to this channel, but I also want to show you guys 2 more jabs that I like to use, which are leaning in towards your opponent and stepping it in towards your opponent as well. And let's cover that spare jab once again. Okay, so first, Alex is going to get in a good stance. Regular jab, right? That's straight left, static, boom. You should be practicing this all the time. Straight out, like an arrow, and right back, just like an elastic band. So again, boom, again, boom. And from the side, that's his jab, boom, again, boom. That's the regular jab. Now, the next one I'm going to talk about is the spare jab. I talked about it in the last video, but I also want to cover it here again, is the spare jab is when I make my opponent miss with a slip on the cross, and I catch him with that straight left. So Alex is going to demonstrate that. He moves to the side, and boom. So we're just making the punch miss from this angle here, slightly, and now he catches me right here, boom, before I can return my glove to protect my chin. All right, so when you shadow box this, it's going to look like this. This is your regular jab. Watch my shoulder and my chin. It's all aligned. Boom. That's my jab, my straight left. Boom. Now, spare jab, I lean to this side, and I'm slightly off balance, but I have to make sure that all of my weight is on my lead foot so I don't fall over, and I throw the straight left as a cross. I cross it over. Sometimes it crosses over the cross, or sometimes it lands before the cross returns to protect the chin. So it's going to look like this. Again, I slip outside, shoot out, and come back to center line. Okay? So off line, back in line. Okay? So here. Again. And slow motion, I move, throw it out, and come back. Okay? This is what I like to call the spare jab, because we're throwing it out just like a spear on an angle. But we don't need to move to create the angle. We've created it by off center line and shooting to the target. Okay? That's the second jab. Now, the 2 next jabs I want to cover is the long jab. Okay? So the long jab is different than the step-in jab I mentioned earlier. So I'm going to talk about the long jab first. So Alex is going to throw that jab, but he's going to lean in to extend himself. So how do we lean in without being too off balance? There's a trick to it. He's going to bend that lead leg. Okay? So watch this for a second, guys. If Alex is facing me, don't do nothing else but throw your jab right here. Barely hits the target. Do it again. Barely hits the target. Now bend your lead knee slightly. Boom. Didn't move his feet. Keep your legs straight. Misses the target. And freeze it. Go. See? That's the extent. If he goes any further, he will attain the target, which is my hand in this case. But watch this. He's off balance, right? That can't work. We don't want this type of punching. What he needs to do now to negate the off balancing is to bend that lead leg. Watch this. Bend the knee. Boom. Without taking any step, all he's doing is leaning forward, but bending the lead leg. Okay? And that's the lean jab, or sometimes I like to call it the long jab. It's just a longer weapon. Okay? So we're disguising the overreach by just bending that lead leg. That's another trick I want to share with you guys. And last but not least is talking about the step-in jab. This one is different now. This one we're really going to step in with our lead leg to cover that distance. Okay? So now, just do it in shadow. Go. He steps it in but comes back, because the step-in jab needs to be followed by a right hand. But if he doesn't hit the target, he needs to be in position to return back to his home base, which is his perfect stance from the beginning, right? So from the perfect stance is here, as he throws, he steps it in and comes right back. So only the lead leg will move. The back leg serves as the driver or the push, but it also springs right back into position, right back into place, okay? So do a few. Step in, jab, and back. Step in, jab, and back. And now don't move your feet, once again, for the purpose of demonstrating the distance. Barely touches the target, which is my hand. Go. Barely touches. Now step it in. Boom. Step it in. Boom. Step it in. Boom. And now aim where my chin is. And now don't move. Misses, step it in. And lean in. Ooh, lean in. Bend that knee. Ooh, see? So there's small intricacies, small details between the regular jab or the static jab, the lean in or long jab, and then the stepping in jab, okay? It's very important to understand each. And does it make a difference? No, a punch is a punch. When you hit the target, you're aiming for the chin, the nose, the eyebrows, underneath the eyes, sometimes even the temples. Sometimes we even hit right on the gloves, on the forearms. We aim for the shoulders or the neck. If you aim for the neck or the upper chest, you might land on the chin. But these are all tactics. At the end of the day, a punch is a punch. But how you're going to land the punch, you have to understand the small intricacies that makes the difference to land the target, because an inch is a mile in Muay Thai. Okay, now we're going to talk about the cross, and then we're going to combine the jab cross together. Once again, sometimes the cross is just a cross, but basically it's a straight right, because we're trying to shoot it out as a straight line, as straight as possible. It's almost like a jab on our power side, okay? So his right straight is coming off. We talked about this many times. We just recently made another video on making sure you return that hand, okay? So whether it's boxing, mixed martial arts, or Thai boxing, it doesn't matter. That right straight has to be returned here. It can't loop and curve. I don't want to go downhill. I want to shoot it out and return on the same line, okay? So he shoots that right straight and he's back. Again, make sure to pivot using the back leg, the driver from the hip, and pushing with your shoulder, right straight. Boom. Now, we have the same principle. That's his right straight. So he wants to lean it in or step it in on the right cross as well. So watch this, just like the jab, if he wants to lean it in, he's simply going to bend the lead leg and get that further distance, right? Again, lean it in. So don't move anything, just throw it, barely hits the target. Lean it in, boom, touches the target. See, I didn't move my hand. Again, misses, reaches. Now step it in, reaches again. Step it in, reaches again. Now, of course, if he lands on the target with the left or the right, as he steps it in, he would follow his right leg back into stance. So it's going to look like this. I'm going to step it in, but then I move my back leg to shoot the right straight. So a 1-2 would look like this. Bam, bam. I walk it in. I drive my feet to bring my hips and my shoulders aligned into the punches. But if I notice that I didn't hit the target, upon landing the left or even the right, I want to bounce back into position, because that means if I slipped, I'm going to counter back. He doesn't want to be in range to be countered. He wants to get back to his stance. So that's why if he senses that the cross with the step in misses, touch the target anyways, but this would have missed, he needs to know he needs to spring right back into position. So do a few. Step it in and back. So all you're using your right leg for is to pivot. But basically, the rangefinder, the antennas, is your lead leg. Now we're going to combine, to finish this video, combining the 1-2. So when you train it, basic 1-2, pop, pop. Sometimes have your partner lean into the jab and finish with the cross. Lean, boom, and then back. And other times, stepping it in. Step the jab and back. Sometimes lean the cross. Sometimes just the cross, but I'm going to move forward just for mechanics. And other times, step in the cross, bam, and back. And other times, I'm going to have him do the 1-2 using the step, step. Watch this. Step, step, and then back. Again, step, step, and he's back. Again, boom, boom, out of range. Always out of range. Again, step, step, and out of range. Okay? These little details are extremely important, guys, to practice. When you are solo, practice in front of the mirror. Look at yourself sideways. Even film yourself. That's what I used to do. And then you can auto-criticize yourself when you look at yourself and see if your footwork, even your placement of your feet is correct. Then when you come back to the gym and you have your crew with you, they can even further enhance the coaching process by really putting in the details and making sure they're correct and you don't form the bad habits. These things are super important. If you know my style, if you've been watching my videos, or even if you train with me, you know my style. I'm very fond of the basics. I don't like the flashy stuff. I always believe that basics will always overcome fancy and flashy stuff. Okay, it's super important. So these basics, sometimes it's not just throwing the basic punches like the jab and the cross. It's understanding how to properly land the jab and the cross using some small details like we just talked about today. There's a lot more secrets, guys. Of course, this is just a YouTube channel. All the content is free. I don't share all of the super knowledge that I have for free. We're gonna make a super video on our Experience Online website very shortly on some of the secret stuff that we train in-house. But these are great details to start you out with. Hope you enjoy this content. Catch you in the next one. All right, guys, thanks a lot for watching our video. Once again, leave us a thumbs up. As usual, if you haven't so already, make sure to subscribe to this channel for more content, more Muay Thai content coming your way. Practice correctly, train hard, and
We'll see you guys in the next video.
take care.